One of the things that I wished that immigrant parents understood about the way that kids are growing up now, I think it's about the difference between the ways that students are growing up online versus the way that they're growing up in person or their sort of physical presence with you. I think when it comes to the immigrant story, the way that I grew up, for example, I was made fun of for being Asian. I was made fun of for being Korean. But I think the way that a lot of our students are growing up now, there's less of that. Part of that has to do with the worldwide global success of things like K-pop, K-drama, and things like that. And so it's far more accepted. And so I think that the ways in which our students think about their identity, so much of it now is about who you are online. And the way that you appear online, the pressures that you have online. And I think so much of that stuff is hidden from our parents that a lot of times when our kids have really, really bad mental health struggles, when they fall into severe depression, a lot of times I've heard our parents say, I didn't know, I had no idea that this was coming. And a part of that has to do with the fact that so much of their lives are lived online in a place where oftentimes our parents don't have access to. And so this is why I think it's important that parents take time to physically be with their children in spaces where they can have conversation together. I know for immigrant parents, that's very difficult. Part of the problem is, most of us did not grow up having those kinds of conversations with our own parents. And so we feel that this is a struggle and it's really difficult and it's hard. But I must emphasize that without those conversations, our students can get lost in another personality, in another world, online again, in a place where parents don't have access to. And so parents need to sit down and have discussions about important things with their kids. And I think also understanding that getting to know your children means being interested in the things that they're interested in. So much of the reason why our kids withdraw from our parents is because they find things that they're interested in that our parents are not interested in. So I think it's really, really critical that parents try to find an interest in whatever it is that their kids have interest in. One example would be, my younger children, I have 3 kids of my own, they're really into Pokemon. And so learning about the Pokemon world, finding out the things and what they're all called and understanding the cards, and when they show me and saying, oh, that's cool. Even if I am so stressed out with all the other things in my life, I don't have time to learn all 150 Pokemon. But there's moments where when they know that I'm interested in the things that they're interested in, it helps me understand when they start to get involved in things that I don't necessarily want them to get involved with. I can have conversations with them about it because they're used to talking to me about stuff. And so I think it's important that parents understand how important it is to be able to have in-person conversations as much as possible.
Yeah, well, full disclosure, I didn't grow up in Korea or China, so I don't actually know the lived experience of our parents. But just broadly, I can understand that our cultures can be so different, where Korea and China could feel more collectivistic and more focused on the group. And for the US, we could be more individualistic, where it's not so much about us joining the group and aligning our vision with where everyone else is going, but really forging our own path, that you do you, like follow your own heart kind of things. And so I could see that there's a big gap between how our parents grew up and how our children are growing up here in the States. Now, when it comes to those differences, I want to encourage parents to engage in conversations with parents or with their child, because I know that when something feels so different and so extreme, especially in the way of values and the way that they grew up and experiences, that it could cause them to react maybe in a way that might not be wise at that moment. Because some of our differences aren't so much about right or wrong, but it could just be about different cultures with different values. But if we come about it as right or wrong, then we again make that gap, which is already big, bigger and bigger. So anytime that those differences come up as we talk to our children, I would just want to encourage our parents to engage in conversation, asking not just what they did, what happened, but also why. And when it comes to issues that can feel so different, when they ask the why question and go deeper than just the surface level and go into their heart, we're starting to see then, even though we lived worlds apart, I can understand and empathize what you did and what you said. I didn't face the same challenge and moment, and yet I too feared about how other people would perceive me. I too desired to be accepted and valued by that group. I too wanted to be seen as successful. I too am ambitious. So once we're able to kind of cut through the just all of the clutter of the differences that our cultures has kind of that our cultures has like built up in, or like that we've like lived in, then I would want to encourage parents, let's engage in conversations with those differences and hope to that when you go to the heart, that you'll be able to see that you're more similar to your child than different in those ways.
So I think today that difference between growing up in Korea and growing up in America is not as great as it used to be. As Korea has become more and more westernized, I'm seeing a lot more patterns where they allow a lot more freedom for their children in Korea, where they allow kids to do more independent things in Korea, which is very similar to the kids here in America. But I think one big difference, though, would be the fact that in America, we emphasize a great deal on individual freedoms, student rights, student privacy. And so whereas in Korea, they operate in more of a mindset of community, like family relationships. So in other words, you operate with that mindset of family first before my individual rights or what I would want. You always kind of defer to what's best for the family. But in America, we emphasize so much this idea of me first. So for example, during COVID, in America, it was so hard to get people to wear masks because it's my freedom. I should be able to determine what I want to do. Whereas Korea, everybody was willing to wear masks. It's just a different mindset that kids have from Korea and then in America. And so especially today in America, student rights and student privacy is being elevated like never before. So for example, in our school district, if a child wants to change their sexual identity or their pronouns, we as a school district are not allowed to tell the parents because it's about student privacy, about student rights. And so that kind of mindset of elevating student rights has become so extreme where now some kids would like to divorce their parents if they could. And so I would say that's one of the major differences between kids being raised here and kids being raised in in Korea, is that we emphasize student rights so much more. So often if I could tell parents one thing about their children, is that they don't hate you, they do love you. It's just that we need to understand the place that they're coming from, right? And their lens that they see things through is different than the lens that their parents see through, right? And so because of it, it's hard for students today to relate with their parents or kids to relate with their parents, but they don't hate you. They really do love you. It's just that they're trying to find their own voice because that's what society and culture is telling them to do.